I stood in my childhood bedroom, staring at the empty shelf where Mom's medication used to be. The familiar orange bottles that had lined up like little soldiers for the past year. Gone. Just gone. My hands trembled as I touched the dust-free spots where they'd sat just last week. My name is Sarah, and I lost my mother 3 weeks ago. The funeral was barely over, and already it felt like someone was trying to erase her existence. "Susan," I called out, my voice echoing through the house. "Where are Mum's medications?" My new stepmother's cheerful voice floated up from downstairs. "Oh, honey, I threw those out yesterday. We need to start moving forward, don't you think?" Moving forward. Right, because apparently 3 weeks was long enough to grieve the woman who raised me for 24 years. The same woman whose side of the bed was barely cold before Dad married Susan in a private ceremony. I found Susan in the kitchen, humming while arranging flowers, always arranging flowers, like some twisted Martha Stewart wannabe. "Those medications were important to me," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "They were part of Mom's medical history." "Sarah, sweetie," Susan's smile never reached her eyes. "Your father and I agreed it's not healthy to keep dwelling on the past. Besides, they were expired." "They weren't expired. I'm a nursing student. I know better. And they weren't yours to throw away. What's going on?" Dad appeared in the doorway, looking annoyed. He'd started wearing cologne recently, something he'd never done when Mum was alive. "Sarah's upset about the medications," Susan said, touching his arm. "I was just explaining." "They were evidence of her treatment," I interrupted. "I needed them for..." "For what?" Dad's voice turned sharp. "Your mother is gone, Sarah. Susan's right. It's time to move on. You can't keep turning this house into a shrine." I felt like I was drowning in crazy. Was I the only one who remembered Mom had only been gone for 3 weeks? That this woman had basically moved in before Mom even got sick? "Fine," I said, backing away. "I'm going to head home." "Don't be like that," Dad called after me. "We're having dinner at 6. Susan's making her famous lasagna." Famous lasagna. Mom's lasagna used to be famous. Now it was just another thing being replaced. I drove home in a daze, but instead of going to my apartment, I found myself pulling into the local pharmacy. Regina, Mom's best friend, was working behind the counter. "Sarah," her face softened when she saw me. "You okay, honey?" "Susan threw away Mom's medications," I said, the words tumbling out. "All of them. Said they were expired, but they weren't. I checked them last week when I was organizing Mom's things." Regina's expression changed, just for a second. Something flickered across her face, concern, fear. "That's strange," she said carefully. "Strange how?" She glanced around, then lowered her voice. "Your mom was very particular about her medications. She kept detailed records, said she wanted everything documented in case..." "In case what?" Regina shook her head. "Nothing, just... Be careful, Sarah. Sometimes people aren't what they seem." I left the pharmacy with my head spinning. That night, I couldn't sleep. Around 2 a.m., I drove back to the house. The spare key was still hidden under the loose brick. Some things never change. The kitchen trash had already been taken out, but the big bins were still in the garage. My hands shook as I lifted the lid. There, under coffee grounds and newspaper, I found them. 6 orange bottles, their labels still intact. I pulled them out, wrapped them in a plastic bag, and shoved them in my purse. Something wasn't right. The way Susan had thrown them away, how quickly she'd moved in, the strange looks Regina gave me at the pharmacy. Back home, I cleaned the bottles and placed them in a shipping box. I'd seen an article about private labs that test medications. It would cost nearly a month's rent, but I had to know. As I sealed the box, my phone buzzed with a text from Susan. "Hope you're feeling better, sweetie. Don't forget, family dinner on Sunday. We need to stick together during this difficult time." I stared at the message, then at the box. If I was wrong, I was just a daughter struggling with grief. But if I was right... "I promise, Mum," I whispered, taping the shipping label. "If something happened to you, I'll find out, and they'll pay for it. I dropped the package off at FedEx first thing in the morning. Now, all I could do was wait and pray I was wrong about everything. The lab results arrived on a Tuesday morning. I was at work, checking vital signs on a patient, when my phone buzzed. One new email. Laboratory analysis results, urgent. My hands shook so badly I had to ask my coworker Haley to cover for me. I barely made it to the break room before opening the attachment. The medical terminology jumped out at me, but one phrase made my blood run cold. Significant traces of potassium cyanide detected. I read it again, and again. The room started spinning. "Sarah," Haley's voice snapped me back. "You look like you've seen a ghost." "I need to make a call," I managed to say. "Can you cover the rest of my shift?" 20 minutes later, I was sitting in my cousin Miles's apartment, watching his face as he read the report. His IT job let him work from home, thank God, because I couldn't handle being alone right now. "Holy shit," he whispered, looking up. "Sarah, this is murder." "I know." My voice sounded strange, distant. Someone tampered with Mom's heart medication. The lab found traces in all 6 bottles. "Susan," Miles said, his face hardening. "It has to be." "But why? She barely knew Mom." "Money?" He started pacing. "Your dad's not exactly hurting. The house, the investments." "We need to call the police," I said, reaching for my phone. Miles grabbed my wrist. "Wait, think this through. We need more proof." "More proof? She poisoned my mother, and your father married her 2 months later," he reminded me. "If we go to the police now, it's just your word against theirs. They'll say you tampered with the medication yourself." He was right. I slumped back into the chair, my mind racing. Then what do we do? First, we call Violet. We need someone who can think clearly right now. Violet arrived 30 minutes later with coffee and her trademark skepticism. As my best friend since college, she was the voice of reason I usually ignored. "Okay," she said after reading the report. "Before we go full revenge mode, let's look at the facts. When did Susan first show up?" "About 8 months ago," I said. "She joined Dad's church group or something. Started showing up at the house with casseroles when Mom got sick." "And the marriage?" 2 months ago. Mom died 3 weeks ago." The timeline hit me fresh. Oh God, they were planning this while Mom was still alive. "We need to be smart," Miles said. "If we're right about this, Susan's dangerous. And your dad," he trailed off, "is either involved or the world's biggest idiot," I finished. Violet pulled out her laptop. "Let's start digging. What do we actually know about Susan?" "Nothing," I realized. "She said she moved here from Seattle, but—" "I can help with that," Miles offered. "I know some ways to do background checks." My phone buzzed. Another text from Susan. "Sweetie, your father's worried about you. Come over for dinner tonight." "Go," Violet said before I could refuse. "Act normal. Meanwhile, we'll start digging." That evening, I sat at my childhood dinner table, watching Susan serve pot roast like she belonged there. Mom's china, Mom's tablecloth, Mom's place at the table, all taken over by this smiling stranger who might have murdered her. "You're quiet tonight," Dad noted, frowning. "Just tired from work." I forced myself to take a bite. "The hospital's been busy." "Oh, that reminds me," Susan chirped. "I was organizing some papers and found your mother's old medical records. I thought we should shred them. No need to keep all that sadness around." My fork clattered against the plate. "You what?" "Susan's right," Dad said. "It's time to move forward." "Those records are private," I said, standing up. "You can't just—" "Sarah." Dad's warning tone, the one he used when I was a kid. "Sit down." I sat, but my mind was racing. The medical records could prove the medication tampering. If Susan shredded them— "Actually," I said, forcing a smile, "you're right, both of you. I've been holding on to the past too much." Susan beamed. "That's the spirit. Now, who wants dessert?" Later that night, I texted Miles. "Need to break into the house tomorrow. Medical records about to disappear. His response came quickly. I'll help, but Sarah, be careful. If they catch you... I stared at the family photo on my wall. Mom, Dad, and me at my nursing school graduation, just 6 months ago. Mom was already sick then, but we didn't know why. Now I knew, and I was going to prove it no matter what it took. Watch me, Mom, I whispered to the photo. Watch me burn her world down. Breaking into your own childhood home feels surreal. Miles and I waited until midnight, when Dad's bedroom light finally went dark. The spare key still worked. Susan hadn't thought to change the locks yet. We have 1 hour, Miles whispered as we crept up the attic stairs. They always watch Law and Order reruns until 1. The attic was exactly as I remembered. Dusty boxes, old furniture, and Mom's meticulous filing system. She kept everything organized, labeled, dated. Susan hadn't made it up here yet with her cleaning. Here, I whispered, pointing to a filing cabinet. Mom's medical stuff should be in there. As Miles picked the lock with paper clips, thank you, YouTube tutorials, I scanned the room with my phone's flashlight. Something caught my eye. A stack of legal papers partially hidden behind Mom's old sewing machine. The cabinet clicked open. Got it, Miles said. But I was already reaching for those papers. The top document made my heart stop. Last will and testament, Margaret Ann Wilkinson. Miles, I hissed. Look at this. He joined me, reading over my shoulder. His sharp intake of breath told me he saw it too. The date. 3 weeks before Mom died, she had updated her will. This isn't the version they showed us, he said. No. My hands were shaking. Look at this clause. If Terry Wilkinson remarries within 6 months of my death, all assets will pass directly to Sarah. Holy shit! Miles grabbed his phone, photographing every page. They hid this. They got married 2 months after. A creak from downstairs made us freeze. Footsteps. Someone's coming, I whispered. We shoved everything back in place and ducked behind a large wardrobe. The attic door opened. I told you I heard something. Susan's voice drifted up. Probably just rats. We need to clear this stuff out anyway, Dad replied. Too many memories. My fists clenched. Too many memories. This was Mom's life they were talking about erasing. Tomorrow, Susan said, I'll call a junk service. Better not tell Sarah. You know how emotional she gets. Their footsteps retreated. We waited 5 agonizing minutes before moving. We need to take the will, I said. No. Miles held up his phone. We have photos. If they notice the original is missing, they'll know someone was here. He was right. Again. We carefully replaced everything and slipped out, making sure to lock up behind us. Back at my apartment, we examined the photos on my laptop. The will wasn't the only document we'd found. There were insurance policies, medical reports, and... Wait, I said, zooming in on one photo. Look at this. It was a bank statement from 6 months ago. A transfer of $50,000 from Dad's account to someone named Sandra Mitchell. Who's Sandra Mitchell? Miles asked. My phone buzzed. Violet calling. Guys, she said when I answered on speaker. You need to see what I found. Susan Baker doesn't exist. At least not before 8 months ago. What do you mean? No social media, no records, nothing before she showed up here. But I found something else. A woman named Sandra Mitchell, who looks exactly like her in Seattle news archives. She was investigated for elder abuse 3 years ago, but the charges were dropped when the victim died. Miles and I locked eyes. Sandra Mitchell, the same name from Dad's bank statement. There's more, Violet continued. The victim, a wealthy widower who married her 2 months before his death. Sound familiar? My stomach lurched. She's done this before. And your dad paid her, Miles added. That transfer, was it a down payment? I stood up, needing to move. We need to talk to Regina. Mom told her everything. Maybe she knows something about this Sandra person. It's 1 a.m., Violet reminded me. I don't care. This isn't just about Mom anymore. They're trying to erase her completely. The medications, the will, the attic. My voice broke. I won't let them. Sarah, Miles said gently, we need to be smart about this. One wrong move and they'll destroy the evidence. Or worse, Violet added quietly. They were right. If Susan or Sandra had killed before, what would she do to protect herself now? Okay, I said, taking a deep breath. Tomorrow morning I'll talk to Regina. Miles, can you dig deeper into Sandra Mitchell? And Violet? Already on it, she said. I'm checking every case of suspicious deaths involving wealthy men in Seattle for the past 5 years. After they left, I stared at the photos of the hidden will. Mum knew. She must have suspected something to add that marriage clause. She tried to protect me even then. I won't let you down, Mum, I whispered. Whatever it takes, I'm going to finish what you started. Regina wasn't at the pharmacy when I arrived. Her co-worker said she'd called in sick, first time in 15 years. Something wasn't right. I found her at home, hands wrapped around a coffee mug, looking like she hadn't slept. I've been expecting you, she said, opening the door before I could knock. Come in. Her living room was cluttered with photo albums. One lay open on the coffee table, Mum and Regina at their college graduation. You found something in the attic, she said. It wasn't a question. How did you? Because I helped her hide it. Regina's hands trembled as she sat down. The will, the bank statements, everything. Margaret, your mom knew something was wrong months ago. I sank into the armchair across from her. Tell me. It started with small things. Your father working late, mysterious phone calls. Then Susan showed up at church, and suddenly she was everywhere. Regina's voice hardened. Your mother recognized her. From where? A news article. Different name, different city, but the same face. Same pattern. Wealthy men, sick wives, suspicious deaths. She pulled out her phone, showing me a saved article. Your mum started documenting everything after that. My hands shook as I read. 3 cities, 3 deaths, 3 different names. Why didn't she say anything? She tried. Your father wouldn't listen. The police said there wasn't enough evidence. Regina's eyes filled with tears. She made me promise to keep quiet until you were ready. Ready for what? She reached under the couch and pulled out a sealed envelope. This came in the mail 2 days before she died. She made me swear I'd only give it to you if something happened to her. Inside was a letter and a business card for someone named Xander Burns, private investigator. Mum hired a PI? Regina nodded. She knew she was running out of time. The letter explains everything. I unfolded the paper, recognizing Mum's handwriting. My dearest Sarah, if you're reading this, I was right about Susan, or whatever her real name is. I'm sorry I couldn't tell you everything, but I needed to protect you. There's more money hidden, enough to finish what I started. Xander has all my evidence. Trust Regina. Trust your instincts. I love you more than life itself. Mom. She knew, I whispered. She knew she was being poisoned. Yes. Regina's voice cracked. And I watched it happen. God help me, I watched it happen because she made me promise to wait. My phone buzzed. Miles calling. Sarah, he said when I answered, you need to see this. Sandra Mitchell. She's been married 5 times in 8 years. All her husbands were wealthy. All their previous wives died mysteriously. 5 times? Regina's face went pale. The article only showed 3, because 2 cases were sealed, Miles explained over speaker. But I found hospital records. Same pattern every time. Wife gets sick. New woman shows up to help. Wife dies. Quick marriage follows. And Dad paid her, I said. That transfer we found. It gets worse, Miles cut in. I traced the money. It wasn't a down payment. It was the first of 3 transfers. The last one was made the day before your mum died. The room spun. My own father had paid this woman to kill my mother. I'm calling Xander, I said, grabbing the PI's card. Already did, Regina admitted. He's been watching your father's house since your mother died. He's on his way here now. As if on cue, a car pulled up outside. The man who walked in looked nothing like I expected. Young, sharp-eyed, wearing jeans and a leather jacket. Sarah, he said, nodding. Your mother was a brave woman. She hired me 6 months ago to build a case. He dropped a thick file on the table. This is everything: photos, bank records, medical reports, including proof that your father knew exactly who Susan was when he married her. I opened the file. The first photo showed Dad and Susan together at a restaurant, dated 2 months before Mom got sick. They planned it, I said, feeling sick. All of it. Yes, Xander confirmed, but your mother planned too. Everything in that attic. She put it there knowing you'd find it, the will, the records, it's all evidence. My phone buzzed again. Susan texting, "Family dinner tonight. Your father misses you." I looked at the people around me, Regina with her guilt, Xander with his evidence, and through the phone, Miles with his unwavering support. Mom had built me an army. "What's our next move?" I asked Xander. He smiled grimly. "We set a trap. But first, you need to go to that dinner. Act normal. Because tomorrow..." He tapped the file. "Tomorrow we start dismantling their world." I looked at Mum's letter again, her last words to me. "Trust your instincts," she'd written. My instincts were screaming for justice. "The letter has to look authentic," Xander said, sliding the forged document across my kitchen table. "Your father needs to believe it's really from the family lawyer." I read it over. Investigation into Margaret Wilkinson's death. New evidence discovered. "Once they see this," Miles added, "they'll panic. People always make mistakes when they panic." The plan was simple but dangerous. Plant the letter, make them think they're being investigated, and record their reactions. Xander had already installed hidden cameras in the house during their weekly church service. "Remember," he warned, "if they find out you're behind this..." "They won't," I said, more confidently than I felt. That evening, I arrived for dinner, carrying a casserole and wearing a wire. Xander and Miles waited in a van down the street, monitoring everything. "Sarah," Susan's smile was extra bright. "And you brought food. How thoughtful." Dad barely looked up from his newspaper. These days, he hardly looked at me at all. "I found something interesting at work today," I said casually, setting down my purse, deliberately leaving it open, the fake letter visible inside. Susan's eyes flickered to it immediately. I pretended not to notice, busying myself in the kitchen. "I'll be right back," I said. "Bathroom." Through my earpiece, I heard Miles whisper, "She's going for the purse." I counted to 30 before returning. The letter was slightly askew, exactly as we'd planned. Throughout dinner, I watched Susan's hands shake. She knocked over her wine glass twice. Dad kept checking his phone. "Everything okay?" I asked innocently. "Fine." Susan's voice was too high. "Just fine. Oh, I forgot dessert in the kitchen." The moment she left, Dad's facade cracked. "Where did you get that letter?" "What letter?" "Don't play games, Sarah. The one in your purse." I feigned confusion. "Oh, that. It came to the hospital by mistake. I haven't even opened it." Before he could respond, we heard a crash from the kitchen. Susan stood in the doorway, face white, clutching her phone. "Terry," she said, "we need to talk. Now." They disappeared into his study. Thanks to Xander's bugs, I could hear everything through my earpiece. "They're reopening the investigation," Susan hissed. "How is that possible? You said you handled everything." "Lower your voice," Dad snapped. "The money's gone, the records are gone. What about the medications? The ones she sent for testing?" "What testing? What are you talking about?" "Your precious daughter," Susan spat. "She took them. I saw her mail something at FedEx last week." Silence. Then Dad's voice, cold. "You told me those pills were clean, that there was no way to trace." "They were. I mean, they should have been." "Should have been? Damn it, Sandra, if you screwed this up." "Sandra." He'd used her real name. I fought to keep my expression neutral as I cleared the dinner plates, but my hands were shaking. "We need to leave," Susan Sandra said. "Tonight. I still have money from the Seattle job." "No one's going anywhere," Dad cut in. If we run, we look guilty. We stick to the story. Margaret was sick. The doctors confirmed it. No one can prove otherwise. They returned to the dining room, masks back in place. But now I could see the cracks. "Sarah, sweetie," Susan said too brightly, "why don't you take some leftovers home?" "Actually," I said, "I was hoping to look through some old photos for a memorial project at the hospital." Their faces. God, their faces. "The attic's a mess," Dad said quickly. "That's okay. I know where Mum kept everything." "No." Susan's outburst made us all jump. She recovered quickly. "I mean, there might be rats up there. We're calling an exterminator tomorrow." "Right," I said, standing. "Well, I should go. Early shift tomorrow." In the van, Miles and Xander played back the recordings. Every damning word. "It's good," Xander said, "but not enough for court. We need them to explicitly confess." "They will," I said. "Did you hear them panic over the medication? That's our pressure point." "The memorial project was a nice touch," Miles added. "They'll be scrambling to clean out that attic now." "Let them," I said. "Everything important is already safe." My phone buzzed. A text from Susan. "Sorry about dinner, sweetie. Your father's just stressed about work. Let's have lunch tomorrow. Just us girls." "Perfect," Xander said, reading over my shoulder. "Except, the more she tries to control you, the more mistakes she'll make." I typed back, "Love to. Can't wait to catch up." "You're getting good at this," Miles observed. "I learned from the best," I said grimly. "After all, I've been watching Susan do it for months. The game was on. And this time, I was writing the rules." The local newspaper landed on doorsteps across town with a headline that made coffee cups freeze halfway to mouths. "Questions surround prominent businessman's wife's death." I read it at the cafe where I was meeting Susan, watching her face as she noticed other patrons staring at their phones, whispering. "Terrible thing," I said, sliding into the seat across from her. "Someone must have leaked Mom's medical records to the press." Susan's perfect makeup couldn't hide her pallor. "Sarah, I need to tell you something." "What is it?" I asked innocently, pressing record on my phone under the table. "Your mother," she leaned forward, lowering her voice. "She wasn't well, mentally. Near the end, she had paranoid delusions, made wild accusations." My hand tightened around my coffee cup. "What kind of accusations?" "She thought people were trying to hurt her. The doctors said it was the medication affecting her mind." Susan reached across the table, gripping my hand. "I never told your father this, but she accused me of terrible things." "Like what?" Like poisoning her." Susan's eyes welled with tears. "Can you imagine? Me, who only wanted to help." I pulled my hand away, fighting the urge to throw my coffee in her face. "That must have been awful for you." "It was. And now these horrible rumors." She dabbed her eyes with a napkin. "Your father is devastated." "I should talk to him," I said, standing up. "Where is he?" "At home. But Sarah..." I was already walking away. 20 minutes later, I stormed into my childhood home, finding Dad in his study. "Did you read the paper?" I demanded. He looked up, face tight. "It's garbage. Tabloid nonsense." "Really?" "Because I have Mum's lab results right here." I slapped the folder on his desk. "Want to know what they found in her medication?" "Sarah, potassium cyanide, Dad, and guess what else I have?" I pulled out my phone, playing the recording from his study, his own voice. "You told me those pills were clean." His face went from red to white. "You've been spying on us." "Spying? That's what you're worried about. Not the fact that you paid Sandra Mitchell, Susan, to murder my mother." "You don't understand," he said, standing up. "Your mother was going to leave me. She was going to take everything." The confession hung in the air between us. He seemed to realize what he'd said a moment too late. "So, you had her killed," I whispered. "Your wife of 25 years. My mother." "It wasn't like that." He ran his hands through his hair. "Susan, she understood me. She knew how to handle things." "Handle things? Is that what you call murder these days?" "You ungrateful little..." He caught himself, trying to regain control. Everything I did for us. For this family. Family? I laughed bitterly. You want to talk about family? Mom built this family. She supported you when you were nothing, worked 2 jobs to put you through business school, and you repaid her by hiring a serial killer to poison her. Keep your voice down. He glanced nervously at the windows. Why? Afraid the neighbors will hear? Afraid they'll find out that Terry, the great businessman, is actually a murderer? I'll sue you for defamation, he threatened. I'll destroy you. I pulled out another folder. You mean like these other families? 5 dead wives, Dad. 5. That's who you chose over Mum. His face changed, became something ugly, unfamiliar. Get out of my house. Your house? This is Mum's house. Check the real will, not the fake one you filed. If you remarry within 6 months, everything goes to me. I smiled coldly. Guess what tomorrow is? The 6-month anniversary of Mum's death. He'd been so eager to marry Susan, he hadn't even waited for Mum's body to be cold. You're bluffing, he said, but his voice shook. Try me. Or better yet, ask your wife about Seattle, about the sealed records, about the money trail. I turned to leave, then stopped. Oh, and Dad, the police have copies of everything. They're just building their case before they move in. Sarah, wait. Goodbye, Dad. Give my best to Sandra. Outside, Xander was waiting in his car. Did you get it? I held up my phone, showing the recording. Every word, including the confession. Good, he said, because the DA just called. They're ready to move. I looked back at the house, at the father I'd lost long before today, at the life that had been built on lies. Make the call, I said. It was time to end this. The courthouse was packed. Everyone loves a scandal, especially when it involves the town's most prominent family. I sat in the front row between Miles and Regina, watching Susan, now officially Sandra Mitchell, being led in wearing handcuffs. Dad followed separately, his expensive suit unable to hide how grey he'd become. He wouldn't look at me. All rise, the bailiff called. The evidence was overwhelming. The prosecution laid it out piece by piece. The tampered medication, the bank transfers, the hidden will, the previous murders. With each revelation, the crowd's murmurs grew louder. Then they played the recordings. Susan's voice filled the courtroom. The pills were clean, I made sure of it. Dad's response, your mother was going to leave me. She was going to take everything. I watched their faces as their own words condemned them. Susan started crying. Perfectly timed tears, just like always. Dad stared straight ahead, stone-faced. The prosecution calls Sarah Wilkinson. Walking to the witness stand felt like walking through water. The oath, the preliminary questions. It all blurred together until the prosecutor asked, when did you first suspect something was wrong? When Susan threw away my mother's medication, I said, my voice stronger than I felt. Mum was always meticulous about her medical records. It didn't make sense. And what did you do then? I told them everything. The lab tests, the hidden documents, the fake letter that made them panic. With each word, Susan's face grew darker. You little bitch, she suddenly screamed, jumping up. You planned this. You set us up. The judge banged his gavel as bailiffs restrained her. Dad just sat there, still not looking at me. Order. Mrs. Mitchell, control yourself or you'll be removed. The prosecutor continued. Tell us about the conversation with your father. He admitted it, I said, looking directly at Dad. Finally, he met my eyes. He admitted having my mother killed because she was going to divorce him. That's a lie. Dad stood up, his composure finally cracking. She trapped me. Sandra, she said she could fix everything. The courtroom erupted. Through the chaos, I heard Susan shriek, You promised to protect me. You promised. Their lawyers tried desperately to restore order, but it was too late. They'd confessed. Again, in open court. The judge's gavel cracked like gunshots. Remove both defendants. We'll resume after a recess. As they were led out, Dad finally turned to me. Sarah, please. Save it, I said, loud enough for everyone to hear. Mom trusted you. I trusted you. This is what you chose. The recess lasted an hour. When we returned, the jury took less than 30 minutes to reach their verdict. On the charge of first-degree murder, how do you find the defendant, Sandra Mitchell? Guilty. And the defendant, Terry Wilkinson? Guilty. The sentences came down hard. Life without parole for Susan Sandra, 25 years for Dad. As they were led away, Susan started screaming about appeals. Dad just looked old and broken. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed us. Sarah, how does it feel to solve your mother's murder? Will you keep the house? Any comment on your father's betrayal? Miles pushed through them, shielding me. No comments. Let her through. Regina waited in her car. As we drove away, she finally spoke. Margaret would be proud of you. Would she? I asked. I just sent my father to prison. No, Regina said firmly. You got justice for your mother. There's a difference. At home, I found a letter from Dad's lawyer. The house was mine now, along with everything else Mom had left. Blood money, all of it. Violet called that night. I saw the news. Are you okay? No, I admitted. But I will be. What are you going to do now? I looked around my apartment, at the boxes I'd started packing. I'm selling the house, donating most of the money to organizations that help domestic violence victims. Mom would have wanted that. And then? Then I'm leaving. This town has enough ghosts. After hanging up, I opened Mom's old photo album. There we were, Mom, Dad, and me at my high school graduation. We looked happy. Normal. Maybe we were once. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. You think this is over? I have friends outside. Watch your back. Susan's last attempt at control. I forwarded it to Xander and blocked the number. It was over. Not the way I'd wanted, not with the family I'd hoped to save, but over nonetheless. Mom had justice. The truth was out. Sometimes that has to be enough. I closed the album and started packing. Tomorrow would be a new day, in a new city, with no shadows following me. Mom would understand. She'd want me to live. The moving truck pulled away, leaving me alone in the empty house. One last walk through before signing the final papers. Each room echoed with memories. Some I'd keep, others I'd rather forget. My phone buzzed. Miles. Need help with anything? No, just finishing up. Meeting the buyers at 4. Want company? I smiled. Cousin or not, he'd become more like a brother these past months. I'm okay, really. In Mum's bedroom, I still couldn't think of it as theirs. I found a loose floorboard. Underneath lay a small box I'd missed during packing. Inside, Mum's wedding ring and a handwritten note. For Sarah, because sometimes the hardest part isn't finding the truth, it's living with it afterward. Choose joy, my darling. That's the best revenge. The doorbell rang. Regina stood on the porch with 2 coffee cups. Thought you might need this, she said, handing me one. It's your mother's special mocha recipe. We sat on the porch steps, watching autumn leaves dance across the lawn. The women's shelter called, Regina said. The donation you made. They're naming their new legal aid center after Margaret. She'd like that. I sipped the coffee. They're helping 5 women right now, all escaping situations like your mum's. Yeah. I pulled out the note. Look what I just found. Regina read it, tears forming. That's Margaret. Always thinking ahead, always caring about others' healing. I keep wondering if I did the right thing, maybe if I'd confronted them differently. Stop. Regina's voice was firm. Your mother tried confronting. She tried reasoning. Look what happened. My phone buzzed again. Violet sending a news link. Susan's previous cases were being reopened. 3 more families would get justice. The buyers are a young couple, I said. First home. They're going to paint it yellow. Your mom would approve. She always said this place needed more light. A car pulled up. Xander's. He'd been checking in regularly since the trial, making sure Susan's friends stayed away. Just wanted to give you this, he said, handing me a file. Your mom paid me for a year of services. This is everything I found, including things we didn't need for the trial. Thought you might want it someday. Thanks. I hesitated. Any word from Dad? He's requested visits twice, left the decision up to you. Not yet, I said. Maybe someday, but not yet. The buyers arrived early, a pregnant woman and her husband, full of plans and dreams. As I handed over the keys, the woman asked, "Are you sure about the furniture? The antiques must be worth—" "Keep them," I said. "Just take good care of the garden. The roses were my mom's favorite." After signing the papers, I drove to the cemetery. Mum's grave was covered in fresh flowers, not just from me, but from other families Susan had hurt. They'd formed a kind of support group, healing together. "I did it, Mom," I whispered. "The truth's out. The house is sold. The money's going to help people." I touched the headstone. "I chose joy, just like you said." "Sarah," I turned. A woman stood nearby, familiar somehow. "I'm sorry to interrupt," she said. "I'm Janet. I was married to Sandra's second husband." Understanding hit me, one of the Seattle cases. "She killed Richard," Janet said softly. "But we could never prove it. Until now. Because of you. Because of what you uncovered." She wiped her eyes. "Thank you." We talked for an hour, sharing stories, connecting pieces. Her truth had been buried for years, just like Mom's almost was. My phone buzzed one last time. The Women's Shelter Director. "Legal Aid Center opens next week. Would you like to speak at the ceremony?" I looked at Mom's grave, at Janet's grateful tears, at the setting sun painting everything gold. "Yes," I typed back. "I'd be honored." Regina was right. Mom would be proud, not just of exposing the truth, but of what that truth would do for others. Every woman who found help at the center, every family who got justice because of the reopened cases, every light shining into dark places. That was Mom's real legacy. Not the house, not the money, not even the justice we'd won. It was the ripple effect of truth, spreading outward, helping others find their voice. I placed one final rose on her grave. "Goodbye, Mom. I'll make you proud." Walking away, I felt lighter. The truth had cost me a father, but it had given me something better. Purpose. Mom's last gift, showing me that sometimes the best way to heal is to help others do the same. I got in my car and drove toward my new life, leaving the shadows behind. But not the light. Never the light.